Hail, hail, the Celtics are here, and what the hell do we care now, Josh? We have just defeated Livingston 3-0 at the weekend, and we're rolling in to a nice game against Motherwell on a beautiful surface where we can play some beautiful football. And yeah, we're going on from strength to strength, mate. It's been a while. Good to see you, mate. How you been?
Yeah, good, man. Good. It's good to be back in the podcast, obviously, off the back of a good win for us at the weekend, and now looking forward to some big games coming up, obviously, Motherwell away, then we've got Lazio in the Champions League, so it's an exciting time to be a Celtic fan. It feels like it always is when we're on this podcast, but looking forward to talking about everything today.
Yeah, so like we had the Livingston game last weekend, which, you know, by the time we're normally getting around to this part of the week, you know, the aftermath of the game is long been chewed over and all the rest of it as well. But it is one of those away games where the surface is one of the main kind of elements of the game, as it were. Brendan Rodgers is already praising the surface we're going to be playing on next weekend, which might play a little bit of a role in the team and such. You know, we'll get to that one through the show as well. But the surface didn't play any part in this result, which was fantastic. And despite going down to 10 men again for 2 games in a row, it was, no speed bumps, clean sheet in the bag, 3 points won, and on to the next one.
Yeah, I think it was one of our best performances, like probably second or third best performance this season since Brendan's been back, particularly with the 10 men. We know how tough Livy away's been for us. Like going into that game, we'd only won in like 2 of our past, something like 8 or 9 visits there. So we knew what the task was going to be for us ahead, and then obviously you get the early goal, you're thinking happy days. Then obviously Joe Hart gets sent off, and then it could have easily turned into a sticky situation for us, but managed to pull through. And I think even despite being a man down, we showed great control throughout the match. Managed to keep the ball off Livingston, prevented them from getting many chances. We were clinical when we went forward as well. So a lot of positives to take from it. There's some brilliant performers in there. Matt O'Reilly was tremendous again. He continues to go from strength to strength. Maeda was just unplayable. The goal he scored was out of this world. Contender for goal of the season, in my opinion. Sits the guy down and then just lifts it into that top corner. Some skills is excellent again. We'll probably just go on to talk about him and how his place in the team could be up for grabs, but how he's playing so well that I personally think that it'd be impossible to drop him at the minute. A lot of positives from the win, and obviously we've had a good week now because we went in League Cup action, which was, you can look at it in both ways, positive and negative, but I had a week to prepare for this game against Motherwell at the weekend, which is going to be a tough one. Motherwell being in good form, but on the whole, if we can replicate the performance away at Livy and maintain the same control that we did, I think we'll be absolutely fine.
I don't think we've had anyone play in Scales' position, that left centre-back role, in the last 2 seasons that's been as consistently stable and good as he's been in the last 5 or 6 games. Like, I was really happy with Moritz Jens when he was in that position. I know he wasn't everyone's cup of tea or whatever, but I thought he did the job pretty well. And it was always in adverse conditions, but even in these adverse conditions, Scales doesn't really split opinion. He's got everyone quite united in the fact that he's doing pretty good, you know, and he's nailed that spot on. Navracsi's been brought in, of course, to try and take that mantle on. So was Kobayashi. But, you know, Navracsi's out, you know, so it's, you know, he can't do anything about that. And Kobayashi, we feel like he's maybe had an opportunity, and clearly, I think what Scales gives you is what Kobayashi was missing, and that was just that bit of backbone, that bit of, muscle, bit of presence on the ball, because he definitely seemed to be able to pass the ball, took up good positions, and was quite clever and all that, but didn't seem to have it shoulder to shoulder with anyone, whereas Big Scales doesn't lose a duel, you know, doesn't put a foot wrong. And he loves a pass into a channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. He gives his heart and soul. Like, he leaves everything out in the pitch. He gives 100%. Like, he knows the club as well. And like we've always said in the podcast, it's great to have players like that around. I think he's one of them, despite the fact he only came in 2 or 3 seasons ago. But he's left-footed as well. That's massive. And building up play from the back. And you can just see how the overall setup, like, I think since Scales has been playing, Greg Taylor's started to become more inverted, which has only benefited him, and I think his performance have increased and got better. Hence, Scales being a left-footed centre-back allows Taylor to do that inverted role. So, no, I think he's been an excellent performer for us over the past couple of weeks. And I think, well, Brendan said that Phillips should be back for the weekend. And if he is, I'd probably drop out Lagerbielke at this point in time and play Scales and Phillips. That's the duo that played against Dundee at home a couple of weeks ago, obviously. And Phillips came off at half-time in his debut, but not very, very happy with Liam Scales. I'm very surprised as well. At the same time, we all thought he was just going to be loaned out or shipped out. Obviously, we had Anthony Joseph on the podcast. There's lots of talk about an Aberdeen move returning to there, but he came in, he's took his chance in the Celtic side, and we've seen it before with players. Anthony Ralston he's came in and took their chances under new managers and done really well. So Scales are no different. I think he's a goal threat as well. He scored 2 goals for us in the past. Dundee United away, and I think it was Wraith Rovers at home. something like that in the cup. So he knows the league as well. Like, he was up at Aberdeen last season, done as well. So very happy with Scales' performance, but I expect him to keep his place going forward, and Nat Phillips to come back in at the weekend, I would say.
Interesting. And I think over that same period of time, like you say, Taylor's definitely came on the last 2 or 3 matches. I think Joe Hart's really came on the last 4 or 5 matches as well.
Yeah.
And the red card, like, it's a real fly in the ointment of the rise in form he's had recently. He'll have the weekend off against Motherwell, but the red card, I think we can all say, hey, fair enough, man. It's a red card, and there's not too much arguing about it. Maybe there's a difference in opinion if you really want to split hairs on some of it, but really, goalkeeper comes rushing out, gets none of the ball. Like, it's a red card, isn't it? So Joe Hart's rush of blood to the head is someone else's opportunity now, and we've been trying. We talk about goalkeepers a lot, unfortunately, in this podcast. We tried not to, but now it's rearing its head. We're going to have, Joe Hart suspended and somebody else playing. You were at the game. What did you make of Scott Bain when he was on? Any Cruyff turns we missed on telly?
I thought he was actually all right. He made a couple of good saves, but there was one where I think it was in the second half, I believe, where he got the ball inside the 6-yard box and he gave it away to Joel Nubley, and his shot just fired over the bar. So we got away with one there, but on the whole, I think at Motherwell away this weekend, we should have no qualms with Scott Bain. I met him in Prestwick Airport in the summer, and he was on the same Ryanair flight as me to Palma. So that shows you the extravagant lifestyle he's living. But no, Scott Bain, he'll do the job for his. He's one of those homegrown players, like we said before. But like you said about Joe Hart, it's the first ever red card he's had in his career. So like you said, a rush of blood to his head, and it was just a silly decision to come out, and I can't even remember who it was. Was it Sangari of Livingston? He absolutely cleaned out.
Yeah.
And then probably deserved red cards every day of the week, and he can have no complaints. But we've seen the passion. I don't know if you've seen the video on Twitter that surfaced of him giving it a big fist pump and cheer when Maeda scored after the match. So that was good to see. A good bit of passion for Big Joe. So I'm sure he'll come back in for Lazio next week, unless Bainy Boy puts in a Fraser Forster League Cup final performance at the week.
Unless he grows another 3 feet taller and another set of arms.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fair. And, one of the things, we're talking before coming on, Josh, but one of the things I think has been kind of lost in the aftermath of this match is the fact that James Forrest was on to start. Jun hadn't been impressing. Palma didn't impress in Feyenoord. And I thought Forrest would have got minutes in those games that those two guys got, but he got the minutes at Livingston before the red card and obviously became the victim to the tactical change with the substitute or whatever. So, it does really throw into question. Rodgers is quoted in the last week or so as saying, like, he's not happy with the transfer business. He, of course, quickly ate his own words up afterwards, saying, oh, every manager will tell you that kind of thing, which is fair enough, right? But it's clear to see the third winger, or the fourth winger, I guess, if we don't have a Bada, like now, like, we've really got no idea who's playing there, do we?
No, I think, obviously, Daizen Maeda is nailed in the team on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, wherever he's playing, but there's a lot of debate surrounding that other position. I think the fact Yang or Palma have not been able to get consistent starts since they've joined the club has probably not benefited them. We've barely seen Palma. I think he's made like 2-3 appearances or something. And then a lot of people wanted to see him start at Livy away, but obviously there was a wild card in James Forrest. I think when we seen the team, no one was expecting that, to be honest. But he was unlucky to be hooked off, but I don't think there was any other player you'd have brought off than James Forrest when we had to make that substitution. So there was that. But listen, I think James Forrest's been a great servant to the club, and he's probably been told by Brendan, I'll start you in like 5 games, 6 games this season, something like that. And obviously this has been one of them where he's got the nod. I don't think he'll start this weekend. I think it'll either be Palmer or Yang, who are two totally different players by the looks of things, in my opinion, but two players who can certainly contribute out in those wide areas. And you've obviously got Marco Tilly as well, who's played for the B team at the weekend in a testimonial away to United, but he played in a central midfield role, which is quite interesting to note. Kwon played in that game along with Kobayashi, so a couple of the first teamers getting minutes at the weekend there. But Yang and Palma, it's a debate. It's an ongoing debate. We just need to see what one turns out better. It's a wait and see situation for me. I think one of them will get the nod at the weekend. Whoever it's not, will get an opportunity off the bench probably, and then it'll be back to the debate again for the Lazio game, unless whoever starts gets 2 or 3 goals against Motherwell. but I certainly rate them both. They look like they're players who have high potential, and we've brought in yet again for low fees and looking probably selling for a high fee later on. I think there's been a bit of banter in the Celtic dressing room that Palma got Alistair Johnston sent off for Canada many moons ago when he was playing. So I think there's been a bit of chat about that. The players slagging Palma maybe, but no, excited to see how they both do when they play because they're players we've not really seen start yet and get a consistent run of games. So hopefully they can.
Yeah, I think so. And I think like this game has to be, like, as much as Livingston, it's an exercise of getting out there, getting the 3 points done, and then like, is there something like Forrest? Is there a bit of rotation you can maybe do? Bring Hatate on for more time, like he did in that match as well. Kind of box ticking, just getting the job done, and then what benefits can you get? Whereas Motherwell game, very different opponent, and we were leading into Lazio right afterwards. So you really need to prepare for Lazio in this game. You need to treat Motherwell like Lazio. You need to basically just put that lens on and just and go for it, because I don't know how accurate this statistic is now, but I'm pretty sure I heard within the last couple of weeks that since Stuart Kettlewell's been appointed at Motherwell, no other manager is like taking more points in the league than him, other than like Celtic, basically, if you know what I mean. So they're not to be written off, definitely, and I think it'll be a good game for us to be keeping that level going up to. And like, the joy on Dyson Maeda's face for getting his first goal of the season, by the way, everyone else's joy at seeing him getting it done. It feels like, between him and Kyogo, like Kyogo never scored at the weekend, but like we seen last year, there was moments where they had big moments, they scored big goals, and then they would go on great runs for us. It was normally disrupted by international windows, I hasten to add. But but I think if we've got a great one off of Maeda against Livingston, and I think if we could get one from Kyogo against Motherwell, then I think like enough of the forward lines maybe firing where at home, we should be in good enough shape to have a fight and go for it.
Yeah, I feel like Maeda and Kyogo had a really good partnership at the weekend. Like, I think eventually the formation was a kind of 4-3-2 type thing, where those two played up front, and I think they worked really well together. They always had one in the centre, one going out wide. I think for O'Reilly's goal, it was Kyogo who swung in the cross. And there was like a disappointment from Maeda when O'Reilly snapped up the chance, but he got his goal late on, which is great to see. Motherwell, like you said, we were just touching on their form there. I think when they lost to Ibrox at the weekend, very narrowly, I must add, problems over in Govan, but that was the first away game they'd lost in 9 months, I think, in the league. So I think that was an incredible stat. And the last time we played them, Celtic Park, I believe it was, back in the April time, we drew one each with them. So this is obviously going to be a tough one. And we know what they'll bring. Like, they're a steely side under Stuart Kettlewell. He's done a great job there. They've got like 16-year-old Lennon Miller starting in the middle of the park, who looks like a really good talent for them. They've lost the goals of Kevin Van Veen, but they're still chipping in here and there. So Motherwell's going to be no easy game, in my opinion. In some ways, it could be tougher than the Livy match because they're at the minute, like, going in form over the last like 6 months or whatever. They're arguably second best or third best in Scotland outside the two Glasgow sides. So we know what Motherwell are going to bring, but hopefully, like you say, guys like Maeda and Kyogo can carry on their form and continue that upward trajectory towards the Lazio game, because that's what we're building towards. We know we need to get something out of that game if we're wanting to do well in the Champions League. So that's what the focus is going to be. And I think probably, barring any injuries, the team that starts on Saturday could be the team that starts next Wednesday night. Obviously, apart from Scott Bain, can't see him starting Bainey Boy home to Lazio. So I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. But I think it will certainly be a tough one. But Brendan's hoping to play some good football on that nice surface at Fir Park. It always seems to be a good pitch there, in fairness.
Yeah. And, we look totally different when Hatate is in the team, and it gives you a wee bit more confidence that we can get the ball down, we can play a bit more. And as much as we've seen Hatate come back into form, come back into fitness over the last couple of matches, through the red card to Odenholm in the last match, and even spilling into the Livingston game there, we're starting to see some minutes for Iwata, still starting to kick about a little bit, so very interesting to see that development kind of come, because Iwata is a player that we know, or we've long suspected, can add good value into the team in different matches and in different situations and stuff. So it's definitely good to see that not only is the first team coming on, but that second layer. I think Iwata, along with probably Home, are really capable of pushing some of these guys a bit further and a bit harder, and keep the team at a much higher level throughout 90 minutes when we're using 3-4 subs as the game goes on. So I definitely think that gives us some confidence, and I'd like to see him feature Motherwell as well.
Certainly, yeah, I agree with your point on Tomoki. Like, I feel like he's a really versatile player. He spoke about it. I think there's comments from him in the press midweek where he's saying comfortable playing midfield, centre back, or even at full back. Obviously, I've seen him feature at right back in pre-season under Brendan. Then he finished last season as our centre back, playing in the cup final at Hampden, where he beat Inverness for the treble. So he's a player of quality. You don't go and win the J League's Player of the Year for 2022 and you aren't good. So obviously, he's got the talent in him. It's been disappointing to see that he's not had the minutes under Brendan so far, but at the same time, he's been bred into the team as there's been more kind of injuries and suspensions and the like. And I think he's not done too bad, to be honest with you. Obviously, centre back away at Feyenoord, we were down to 9 men. We managed to limit that scoreline to 2-0, which I think was quite good from us, especially when he came in at centre back and he done quite well. Then at the weekend, he come on for a cameo holding midfield against Livy. So he's versatile and he's whatever position he's going to play and he's going to bring that quality. And I think he's one who could, like you say, contribute over the coming games. I highly rate Iwata, and I do want to see him get more minutes. And I don't think he might start any of the two, but certainly coming off the bench, like you say, to carry on that first team quality for the full 90 minutes rather than bringing on like someone like Home who maybe isn't up to the standard of a Champions League game yet. Bringing on Iwata who can carry that on is probably a better option until Home develops. But yeah, I really like him and I hope he can get more minutes.
Yeah, because when you see Iwata come on, McGregor gets that a wee bit. He gets a
Yep.
bit more license, and I know it's 10 men, so you don't really get the full taste of it. But if Iwata's there, you know McGregor's got that license to roam, that license to play make. So that's a part of, again, Celtic we've just not really maximised in terms of the squad. So that's kind of what excites me about it. Is as much as Hatate stepping up, that when we don't have Hatate, if we were to sub Hatate off and bring on Iwata, then it's not like in previous games where if we don't have Hatate, it doesn't really seem like we can like knit a passage of play together and carve a team open, as well as we can do. And that then kind of brings me to when we're thinking about the winger, right? So we've got Dyson, we've got Kyogo, we're talking about the midfield. Palma does seem very different to Jun. Palma seems much more of a guy that wants to put his foot on the ball, wants to have his heels on the ground as well, take a touch, look for a pass, maybe just take a couple of touches to go by somebody and do something, rather than somebody like Jun who wants lots of touches, wants to be travelling as well, and wants to be getting into the box himself. So I think, potentially because they are, like you said already, they're very different themselves. Jun we've seen play on the right, and Palma, when he's come on, or for the final game, he was stuck on the left, so different styles and different sides. So that might be, because again, when I seen Palma and I think about him in an SPL setting, obviously we've only really seen him in Feyenoord, but you think, okay, you give that guy, similar to like Rogic and maybe one or two other guys over the years, you give them like that 10-yard channel across the top of the 18-yard box, and you just make sure they're always available. You give them the ball there, they can shoot, they can play a pass, and that's kind of their main kind of function. So against Motherwell on a beautiful surface where we can play some beautiful football, maybe a game like that would suit him, or maybe it would be for Jun where it's pace and you can slick the ball on the ground or whatever.
Yeah, like certainly, I think it's a debate. It's probably one that Brendan's got in his mind right now. Which one it's going to be. It's good that we're having this debate rather than having many injury issues, and we know who's going to be playing. So that's a positive for us at the minute. But they're both like still young. They've both got high ceilings. They've both got high potentials, and like we're really fortunate to have them. Marco Tilly is going to get added to the mix in a couple of weeks' time as well. So he's completely different to them both in his own right. He's left-footed. I think he's the only left-footed attacker we have at the club. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him playing. See him start. He's not in the Champions League squad, so maybe that's something Brendan might be looking to just bleed him in domestically and playing kind of that setting in the home games. Like we've got Kilmarnock at home a week on Saturday after Lazio. Maybe that's a game Tilio could come on and make his debut, because he has been training with the first team and he has been playing for the B team. So that's something that might be in the works. But Palma and Yang, I want to see them do well, and I want to get a good look at them. Like we've seen Palma, obviously he started the Feyenoord game, but we didn't really see much of him. Yang started, I think it was Dundee at home, didn't really do much. So hopefully they can start to take their opportunities, and one of them can nail down a place, and the other can maybe be coming off the bench and competing for it. But you said earlier about international breaks and stuff like that. I think that's a very good point, because I think last season, Sead Taksabanovic was on a really good run of form. I think he scored he had a couple of assists, couple of goals, and but 2 or 3 games, and then international break hits. He went away with Montenegro, and he came back and he wasn't as good. And maybe that's something that hopefully doesn't happen this time around for us,
Yeah.
especially when we come back after this international break. We've got Hearts away, a flight go home, then Hibs away. So hopefully the players can continue on from where they're going to leave off. So, but yeah, Yang and Palmer, looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah. And again, the theme of tying down the key players seems to continue. I don't know if everyone out in the street would consider him a key player, but we've seen today Ralston got a 4-year extension. That seems to be what's on the menu for anyone that's signing a contract now is a 4-yearer. So it seems like he's signed up. He's really is done. It's confirmed. But there seems like there's rumours of Hatate, maybe O'Reilly. Maybe they're not too far away themselves.
Yeah, Ralston, I think, great news. Domestic, homegrown player. It's going to add to that quota for Europe. He can come in, he can do it in the games. Like every domestic game, I think he'd probably be comfortable starting Ralston, maybe except in the derbies. He's shown what he can do before. He knows the club inside out. Brendan spoke about that today. I heard a wee short clip in the radio when I was in the car that he was talking about. I like to have players that are Scottish and are supporters of the club, and they know everything. They know the values inside out. So obviously, you want that in the squad. I think that's only positive. We've spoke about it before, like that Scottish core: Tony Ralston, Greg Taylor, James Forrest, players like that. So it's only good that we're having him around for more, and then hopefully we can get Hatate and Matty O'Reilly tied down, because they are two of our best players in the team right now. We know what they can both do. O'Reilly's been sensational this season under Brenton. He's got a goal or assist every 86 minutes. Just absolutely incredible. And then Hatate's only coming back from injury. So, and he's got a lot to contribute as well under Rodgers. He's obviously just put away that penalty the weekend. Looked like
Yeah.
he missed it from where I was sitting, but no, it's exciting times if we can get O'Reilly and Hatate, but we cannot undermine the brilliant business the club have done in terms of these extensions. Like we've had Cal McGregor, Dyson Maeda, Kyogo, Abada, now Ralston. Maybe there's a couple others I've forgotten about, but it's great business. But I think there's obviously a couple still that are uncertain about their futures. Joe Hart's deal runs out at the end of this season, as does David Turnbull's. So that's obviously dilemmas the club are going to be having at the minute. I think if Joe Hart doesn't sign a new deal, he'd probably end his playing days at the end of the season. I'm not too sure, but David Turnbull's are one. It's a very interesting debate to have. Obviously, with a year left in his contract, he's contributed this season so far a couple of occasions. Obviously, got the brace on the opening day, scored a couple of penalties. He's one that I don't know if they're going to look to tie him down. There's guys like Home in there. Obviously, we spoke about Awata, Tati O'Reilly. Maybe someone they like going a free. Hopefully not, because if you're going to let him go, you want to maybe just give him a 1-year extension, then sell him for a few million, because that's probably the maximum you could get. But yeah, I think it's greatly positive, the Ralston news, and hopefully he'll stay around for. I think he might spend his whole career at Celtic. He's good to have a player like that in a position where you just rely on them. If Johnston's injured, Ralston's there. If we sell Johnston and while we're looking for a replacement, Ralston's going to be there. He gives his all for the jersey, never leaves anything on the park, and he can come up with a goal here and there, as we've seen in the past. So good news.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all the way on that one. And it's good to see that it's continuing. It wasn't just the key guys we've seen in the summer, the main transfer assets, but it's making sure that, because again, it is like it's a workplace environment, if that makes sense. So I was quite surprised that like Ralston did get an extension. I thought he did sign one kind of recently, but maybe I'm not remembering that properly. So he's got his deal signed up, which is great. And yeah, let's hope we get Hatate and O'Reilly done sooner rather than later as well, because yeah, from transfer perspective, you definitely want those guys tied up and on good deals where if they are going to leave, it's going to be for a big bag of money.
Yeah, definitely. Like getting two of our key players on long-term deals would be good business. Like personally, I think Matt O'Reilly could be on for a player of the season this year. Rio Hatate, you just want to get him down on your deal. Brendan's unaware of the situation at the minute, as we've seen today, but he said he's going to go and speak to Michael Nicholson, see what the crack is. But hopefully we can get those both players tied down to long-term deals. We've done it already. McGregor, like I've said, Dyson Maeda, Kyogo and Abada. I think since those players have signed new deals as well, they've taken up turn in form. Dyson Maeda's been brilliant the past couple of weeks. Kyogo's obviously Kyogo, and then McGregor I think's improved recently as well. He was on a loan who was brilliant on Sunday, so hopefully hopefully we get some white smoke coming out of the chimney, and that the likes of O'Reilly and Hatate can extend.
Yeah, I also hope so. So yeah, we'll be moving on to the game in Motherwell. I don't think there's going to be too much. Obviously, we've got Bain coming in for Joe Hart itself, but I don't think there's going to be much change into the defence outside of that. I think we're still going to see Taylor and Scales cement down that left-hand side together. And then if we are going to see, Lagerbielke can't play Champions League. So if we're going to get Lazio preparation, it really has to be Phillips coming in alongside Johnson on the right-hand side, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I think Scales and Phillips, and then probably Johnson at right back. Obviously, like you say, Greg Taylor, and then we know it'll be Bainey Boy in goals. Doubt Seager's going to get any minutes. He'll be on the bench. And then obviously Hart will come back in for that. So unless Bain puts in a ridiculous performance. Midfield, I think it's undebatable at the minute. McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, and then Maeda, Kyogo. They pick themselves, and then it's just that debate like we've talked about Yang and Palma, because I can't see Forrest getting the start 'cause it's preparation for Lazio. So if he started this one, then you'd probably be putting him in Lazio, which is not going to happen. So it'll either be Yang or Palma in the wing. I think that's the only position that's up for debate in the entire team. You could have chat at centre back, and where you could put in a Wata somewhere in the team, but I doubt that. No. I think it's pretty settled at the minute, which we've not had so far this season.
Yeah. No midweek football this week because we weren't in the Iron Brew Cup or whatever it is, because we got eliminated, which, we were obviously very gutted about at the time, but I'm sure right now the team are probably quite chuffed. They've had a wee week on the training ground, and I'm sure it's been a good preparation cycle for them coming into this next little period before the impending international break. And yeah, I'm quite hopeful that the lads will go out and absolutely smash it. With Fir Park away, it's one of these games that, see, for the age I am, it's always had like drama laden results at it, whether it be end of season, mid season, crunch games or whatever. So I'm not writing it off. It's not a game I'm overly optimistic about in the sense of like, oh, we should be going and absolutely running the show. But I do think the form we're in is undeniable. I think the quality in the team is really undeniable at this point. And for the longer we've got 11 men on the pitch, the less of a chance Motherwell have. So as long as we can keep 11 men on the pitch for the first game and free, then I think it will be a pretty good one for us. I do think, but there's so many guys that are itching to score goals. It is kind of hard to see us not scoring like 3 in this match, So that kind of brings me up to probably winning this game 3-1. What do you reckon, Josh?
I think it'll be a tough one. Obviously, we've spoken about Motherwell's previous form. They're a good solid side under Stuart Kettlewell, but Fir Park, like you said, it's always drama. I think last time, one of Brendan's first games back in when he was with us the first time around, at Fir Park, and Tom Rogic scored a last minute winner. And that 4-3 win, that was an absolute topsy-turvy game. So I'm sure we wouldn't want that this weekend for the drama. But I think, like you said, playing surface looks good. Players are in good form, but we're doing really well at the minute. I think we're capable of going there and scoring a couple, and hopefully the defence can keep watertight. Hopefully Nat Phillips, he's only played 45 minutes for us since he came in the door, but I still think he's a Premier League level defender. So he's one who can come in and more than contribute, and hopefully him and Scales can get a good solid clean sheet on their backs and get a partnership going before the game against Lazio, where they're going to have to be solid. Despite that, Lazio haven't been on the greatest form lately. Just looking at a couple of previous results, they won 2-0 last night, but the weekend they were 1 each with Monza at home. They're sitting 11th in the table. Doesn't look too good for them. They've got the San Siro playing Milan away at the weekend, so they might not be going into the game next Wednesday in the greatest form, which could work in our favour. Obviously, the mental thing they'll have when they came here before, we beat them 2-1 in the last minute. But the folks will be on Motherwell at the minute, so hopefully we can get the result there, and I think we can. I think hopefully a good. I'll go with a 3-1. 3-1.
3-1 as well. Snap.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
Are you going to the game this week yourself?
No, unfortunately not. I think I'll maybe go into the B team game on Saturday.
Oh, cool. Well, have fun.
Good.
To anyone that is going to the game, travel safe. Good luck. And hail, hail, on the hoops.